Wow. I am beyond impressed with this sidearm. It's essentially 2 guns inside of 1. So today, guys, we're going to be reviewing Devil's Ruin in both its sidearm form and its fusion rifle form. Yes, you heard that right. It is a sidearm and a fusion rifle together. And for my old D1 vets, this is essentially Pocket Infinity 2.0. Now, in order to get this sidearm, you'll need to complete the 950 sundial activity. Now, it's 950 recommended. Everything's a tad bit beefier. You definitely want to make sure you've got some unstoppable rounds, anti-barrier rounds, and pretty much covering all your corners in terms of match game. Now, I think you need a full squad to do this. I don't think there's matchmaking for it. We happen to have a full squad together here, but upon completing the sundial event at the end, where you normally just pick up your other time lost weapons, you'll be offered the quest for Devil's Ruin. After that, it's pretty much self-explanatory, but let's talk about the sidearm, guys. First up, intrinsically, it comes with the perk Close the Gap. Variable trigger, press and release to fire individual shots, hold to charge up a high power staggering laser, strong against unstoppable champions. And yes, that's right, this exotic is specifically strong against unstoppable champions. Similar to something like Divinity is good against like overload champions. Ariana's Vow is great against anti-barrier champions. It's just another added little bonus to give value to these weapons. Now the trait here is Pyrogenesis. Fully charging the laser refills the magazine from reserves. Now the wording's kind of confusing. Almost sounds like you just sit there and just keep firing it over and over again. It's actually not the case. What actually happens is if you're shooting it in sidearm form and you get to the final bullet of the magazine and then you proceed to fully charge Devil's Ruin, it'll actually insta reload the weapon and shoot the entire 15 bullet blast. So it's almost like it has a built-in playstyle to it, right? You pop a couple shots off into some minors, kill them in sidearm form, and then proceed to look at the major, insta reload the weapon when you fully charge, and melt that major in front of you. Now the weapon does have some other perks here. Extended barrel for that bump there in range, as well as recoil direction, projection fuse for that bump there in range as well, and combat grip, which actually gives us a plus 20 in recoil direction, maxing out the recoil direction on this sidearm, making it completely and perfectly vertical. Now this is both a sidearm and a fusion rifle. Now in its sidearm form, it shoots at 300 rounds per minute. Inside of Crucible, that crit damage value is 51 per crit and 35 per body, reaching a damage fall off range of 17 to 17.5 meters with a time to kill value of 0.6 seconds optimally and 1 second in its body shot TTK value. Now other sidearms that are around the same neck of the woods, Drain is a popular one that's also a 300 round per minute sidearm. Translation Theory, I would say in comparison to those and even something like Buzzard, Devil's Ruin is one of the more consistent sidearms. And considering that nothing here is really boosting that range, 17 to 17.5 meters is still very good. Now what's so crazy is when we start to look at it in its fusion rifle form. The weapon's damage actually drops here to 36 per crit and 26 per body, but its damage fall off actually increases, jumping up to 19 to 19.5 meters, which is kind of strange because I thought that the opposite would happen, right? Like in its Pocket Infinity form, it would have less range considering how potent it is, as it instantly discharges those 15 rounds. Now we start talking about time to kill in this form. When we break down the time that it takes to fully charge the weapon, that's of course 1,000 milliseconds, or 1 second, and it takes approximately 0.93 seconds to discharge all 15 rounds. So essentially 1.93 seconds to fully charge the weapon and discharge the entire magazine. However, the TTK values I'm going to give you are TTK values associated with how many shots it's going to take to kill your opponent, so optimally, as well as its body shot TTK values. If you were to include the charge time, it's approximately 1.31 seconds to 1.43. Not much deviation between both of those time to kill values, but being above 1 second does not look desirable, which is why the skill gap surrounding this sidearm is of course knowing when to use it in its sidearm form, when to use it in its Pocket Infinity form, and of course pre-charge. Because if you just simply get down the pre-charge of this weapon, you could potentially reach a time to kill value of 0.31 seconds optimally and 0.43 seconds in its body shot time to kill value, which is excellent. Of course, this takes time adjusting to the weapon, getting used to it, understanding it, but if you get used to baiting people around corners and having the weapon ready and pre-charging, you'll be able to take advantage of those super fast time to kill values. Now, what makes Devil's Ruin different from just a fusion rifle or a sidearm is the fact that it can go between both of those. We just talked about baiting people around corners. You can go either way with them. You can decide to charge this thing up and use it as a fusion. You can decide to use it as a sidearm, both relatively having very fast time to kill values if done correctly, thus allowing you to outplay many opponents. And with all that being said, the overall ease of use here, guys, with Devil's Ruin is really good. I mean, we just recently made a sidearm video, and had this weapon been out, it would most definitely be at the top of the list. Now, another question comes up: how does this thing perform inside of PvE? But more specifically, how does it perform with something like trick sleeves, which is what we're using in today's video. The trick sleeves is not something that I take advantage of much inside of PvP, as for the most part, by the time you take advantage of that spring-loaded mounting perk, you're already dead. Now, it does increase sidearm ready and reload speed, which is extremely nice, but the biggest benefit is that swapping to this sidearm while you are critically wounded increases its damage. Now, it increases that damage a lot, by 100% here, even in its fusion rifle form. The weapon goes from hitting on Greg here 2,623 damage per crit and 1,868 damage per body, jumping up to 5,245 damage per crit and 3,735 damage per body. Meaning every single burst with this weapon, with something like trick sleeves, is doing 78,675 damage. Absolutely disgusting. We've got a few builds, probably more gauged toward PvE, but we'll try to make it work inside of PvP, where we could take advantage of something like trick sleeves longer to ultimately take advantage of this 100% damage as much as we possibly can. Overall, guys, a very solid sidearm, a very unique one, and 10 out of 10 across the board, guys. I'm so impressed, man. I was not expecting much. One, I wasn't expecting this weapon to be a primary. Two, the fact that it's not only a good sidearm, but also a good pseudo fusion rifle is pretty incredible. Normally it's like one or the other, but this is fantastic. I love to see stuff like this. Definitely worth your time getting, guys. Just takes a second. And as far as being a meta weapon, I think there's gonna be some people out there that are really gonna marry themselves up to this sidearm, especially in this sandbox, considering all the buffs that were handed out to sidearms in Season of Dawn. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.